right, everybody. Welcome to the Possibility Mindset Podcast. I'm Devin Henderson. I am your host, and I believe that something greater is always possible for you. And let me introduce you to my awesome friend, Marty. All right, so that's the informal introduction, right? So I'm gonna give a couple thanks, and then we're gonna talk about the awesomeness of everything that you are.
I noticed you didn't introduce my last name.
I didn't, for a reason.
Because you can't pronounce it?
No, I can. I'm gonna play a little game with them about it. So we'll get to it. All right, well, before we get to Marty's last name, I want to say thank you once again to Etc. This is my first podcast in 2024 where I'm actually recording in 2024. So it's awesome that we have this partnership going. They give us this space. They feed us breakfast. How was breakfast, by the way?
So good. I'm full. I need to take a nap now.
Yeah. And you've eaten here before.
Yeah. It's a good place.
Share with me, share with
you're
them.
Not going to say that.
Should we talk about what
Sure.
you used?
Yeah.
So before Marty knew that the restaurant was called Etc., which, by the way, if you don't know, it's like spelled it's based off the word etc., but it's EGGTC, Egg-cetera, right? Well, the first time you saw the sign, what did you think the name?
I thought it was ecstasy, and I mentally put an S in there, so I was like, oh, ecstasy. That must be a really, really good place to eat.
Is that what brought you in?
Sure, you know, who could resist? But then I was like, oh, etc. Okay, well that makes sense too. But I still call it that. I drive past here all the time because there's a scout camp actually not far from here that I've been.
Camp Nash.
Camp Nash, and I've been a scout leader for almost 18 years.
Wow.
So I drive past here all the time, and I've eaten here several times. And I still call it ecstasy in my head, though.
Okay, so we lost camera there for a second and had to make a switch. But anyway, we were talking about what? The moon landing? And no, we were talking about Camp Nash and how you were a scout leader and how you thought this place was called Ecstasy. Anyway, etc. Thank you, etc. Shani. Also, I want to let you know I've pitched it one time on this podcast. This has been life-changing for me. Zero shoes. Check it out. Are you familiar with barefoot walking or barefoot style shoes?
Only from watching your podcast previously. I saw an episode where you first talked about those. I know people who wear those things, but I haven't tried it.
Haven't been into it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, it really has made a difference in just I just feel I'm developing better muscles in my ankles. My knees are stronger than they've ever been. I feel great. These shoes allow your toes to splay because of the wide toe box. There's a zero level drop, which is where zero gets its name, so that you're not your heel isn't elevated. It's very flexible. The shoes are very light. They're awesome. Go check it out. Zeroshoes.com /go/Devin. Okay, so zero with an X, Xero, zeroshoes.com/go/Devin. Get on there, check it out. It's amazing if you've ever thought about, barefoot is good, but you can't go barefoot in the wintertime. Well, they even make winter boots, right? So that, seasonal. They make fashion shoes. If you want to really get that barefoot simulated walk while you're wearing something on your feet, Zero Shoes is the way to go. Zeroshoes.com/go/Devin. Okay, let's introduce you formally now, starting with your last name, Marty. Before I pronounce his last name, I want you to just go to the title of the episode, look at his last name, and see how you think you would pronounce it. That's the fun part. Like, how would you say it? Because, go ahead, pause it right now, go look at it, come back to us. Okay, I wonder what they're thinking. I'm just going to say it's Fahncke. And the reason I'm thinking of that is because I don't know if this is still in your email signature, but you used to put it phonetically in there. Fawn, like a baby deer, and then key, because people must have been pronouncing it wrong, I'm guessing.
Every way you could pronounce that.
How do people...
So it's weird because my last name doesn't have enough vowels. It's way too many consonants. Yes. And yet people try to put more consonants in it. So the number one thing that they put an R in it, Frankie or Franachek, or, I've heard... all sorts
Frankenstein?
Funky.
Funky.
You name it. It's a tough
awesome.
one. Yeah.
So Marty Fahncke. This is Marty Fahncke. So many things to say about Marty. Okay, we're going to start with serial entrepreneur. That's one of the terms you gave me. Is that kind of like the serial anything, but serial entrepreneur? You're a big entrepreneur guy. That's what you are. You've done many entrepreneurships,
and none of them related to breakfast food.
Yeah.
So I've started and built. I don't even know how many businesses now in my life, and some of them have been miserable failures, and some of them have been very successful. And I've just kind of always had that entrepreneurial bent ever since I was a kid, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's great, man. Some people do just get that entrepreneurial fire lit in them early on, and no one has to tell them, go out and start a business this way. You just go and you fail, you learn, and then you just get up and you do it again. So I love that. So yeah, many businesses, which I want to hear about some of those because it sounds like a variety of them, Marty.
Yep.
He's a business growth strategist helping entrepreneurs around the world. As a marketer, you've generated over $1 billion in sales. Is that it? Just
That's
$1 billion?
I know. Well,
all right. Well,
there's still time.
There is still time. That's true. And as a mergers and acquisition advisor, he's been involved in nearly $500 million in deals.
Yeah, $500 in deals.
$500 in deals. $500 million in deals. It was the way that I have that written was I didn't write that the way I was going to read it. He loves, and here's the cool part. He loves to teach and inspire other entrepreneurs. Okay, which is one of the great reasons to have you on the podcast today. We're talking about the possibility mindset, asking what else is possible. When you ask what else is possible, what greater way than to find a mentor, find an advisor, find a teacher who's going to teach you, like invoke this wisdom in you to how can I pursue greater possibilities in my life? Because you can cut down years on the curve of learning when you're learning from someone who has failed over and over and over again. So that's who's coming to us today. So entrepreneurs, buckle in, get ready. We're going to learn some cool things. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, you're going to have fun. I've known Marty for a while. So thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having me. I am so excited to be here.
Awesome, man. Cool. And let's talk about where we first met. Was it, why don't you tell them?
At Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Yeah. TGIF Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Go check them out.
Yeah. TGIF. They're here local in town. We're hopefully going to have some people from that club as a panel here to talk about what Toastmasters has meant for them. TGIF is the title they gave themselves for that specific chapter in Overland Park because TGIF stands for?
Thank God it's Friday.
Yep. Friday, because Fridays is when we would meet.
Yeah.
So pretty awesome.
But I was actually in a different club in Utah before moving to Kansas. So I've been in a couple of different Toastmasters clubs, and it was absolutely beneficial and critical to my success in a lot of ways, because it's difficult to be successful in business, either as an entrepreneur or as, if you work in the corporate world, without having good communication skills.
Yeah. And
Toastmasters really does a great job of that. And I know when you were transitioning your business from magician to speaker and keynoter, I think that it helped you as well. So
yeah, for sure. We were talking about this over breakfast that was the whole pivotal moment for me. I met with Brad Plum, one of the guys in the club.
Hey, Brad.
And Brad, what up? And he said, hey, you're doing well with the magician thing. Why not try speaking? And the rest is history. I went to the first meeting, got hooked, started learning how to develop a message and how to speak instead of just entertain. And that's what started it all for me. I
was there. I got to see it.
And that was
the beginning, before you were rich and famous.
Yeah, I was doing the math, and I was like, I tell people I've been speaking for 13 years. It's actually been like 15 since I started that, because I was in my 20s. I started at 29. Which is unreal. So, a lot of entrepreneurs do join Toastmasters because they want to improve on their speaking skills, but it's not just entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Companies have their own internal Toastmasters clubs to help their salespeople or people who give any kind of presentations become better at speaking. So what exactly did it do for you? Can you tell us, I know you said it improved on your communication. Did it do other things that helped you with business and life?
I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for Toastmasters.
All right. It brought him to the very top.
to et cetera, in Shawnee, Kansas.
There you go. Well, say no more, man. That's it. Well, and then it's funny because we've had some random run-ins over the years. Well, at one point in time, when I was still doing a lot of kids' parties at the time, and you've forgotten about this now, or I'm wrong.
No,
but as a scout leader, you hired me to come and perform for one of your kids. It was just like a Boy Scout picnic, or it wasn't a blue and gold banquet, but it was just a picnic in the park, and that's gone from his memory. That's how bad the performance must have been that he's like, I'm just going to block
that's
that
how
out.
old I'm getting.
So we had that, and then let's see if you remember this one, because I know this is true.
Okay.
Do you remember running into each other at the airport?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but where was that? I can't remember what city that was in.
Who knows?
Yeah, okay, we wouldn't know. Yeah, but
who knows?
But I remember that's when you introduced me to whatever, at the time, your entrepreneurial venture was on some kind of app to help people sleep.
Oh yeah,
it was like the music app.
That was Whole Tones to Sleep. It's still out there. Yep.
Yes, Whole Tones.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
right.
one of the businesses I started actually.
Okay.
So on my serial entrepreneur journey was started that from scratch and built that to about $24 million in revenue by the time I wrapped that one up. Yeah.
Well, and I think that you sent me like it was just like a file of something to listen to, and it did help me sleep at the time. But I need to get back on that. Because that
was a frequency-based music. It's a long story there that's not necessarily applicable to what we're doing, but it's music that has embedded frequencies and it relieves stress, helps you sleep, does all sorts of great things. I eventually came up with a version because testimonials kept flooding in about how that was helping people's pets. So we actually came up with a pet version. So if you have a lot of times dogs during like 4th of July fireworks time, they get really scared. You play that and your dog will calm right down. So we came up with a sleep version, a pet version, and all sorts. It's a great product.
Yeah, that's really cool. Is that kind of like a white noise thing?
No, it's different than white noise because it actually has frequency. So think of this. Let's go back in time 50 years.
Right? All right.
And you come to my house and say, "Hey, Devin, I got some great leftovers here. Do you want to eat some leftover whatever?" Oh yeah, sure. And I say, "Okay, I'm going to put it in this magic box, and I'm not going to put it in the oven. I'm going to put it in this magic box, and the magic box is going to excite the water molecules in the food, and the vibration and friction of the excited water molecules is going to heat it up from the inside out, and it's going to use frequency waves to do that." And you'd look at me like, "What are you talking about?" Well, I'm talking about a microwave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we understand as human beings like that frequencies can do things, right? Your voice has a frequency. This microphone is picking up a frequency and sending it to the camera and everything else. Everything has a frequency. And so your cells in your body are vibrating at various frequencies. And so this music...
I can feel them right now.
Actually
You're getting me excited.
I know. So this music actually has embedded frequencies that, as they're absorbing into your body, can do certain things, including help you sleep and reduce stress. So it's way more than just the sound.
Okay.
It's actually the frequencies doing things.
Frequency
really
based.
Frequency based, yeah.
Wow, that's wild, man.
It is.
Really
first,
cool.
I will tell you when talking about possibilities.
Yeah.
When it first came to me, I was like, I don't want anything to do with that.
Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I walked away from it. I refused to have anything to do with it. They did it. The artist and the partner launched it anyway without my involvement or knowledge, because I just said it's too weird.
Yeah.
They launched it. They sold like 300 copies at like a launch party, and then they did a survey and they asked them, "Well, what did you think about it?" And the testimonials came in and they sent them to me, and I was like, "No way is this true." I mean, like sleep better. Pain relief, claims that you can't make without getting sued by the FDA, like cancer, all sorts. I know, just like there's something to this that I'm missing, and so I said, okay, I'm going to look at it. So I looked at it, and I said, oh, there's something here, and so I agreed to launch it. And I wrote the copy for it, and I remember to this day, I was sitting in the parking lot of Vietnam Cafe up in River Market. River Market. Yeah. I remember sitting in the parking lot and I was talking to my copywriter Jeff, and I was trying to inspire him. I was like, think about what you feel when Darth Vader's music starts. Dun, 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 okay, and it changes your body. Like if you watch a movie without music, it's completely different. Or Jaws.
Sure.
Dun, dun, right. So they use music to create certain things in your body, and it's not just emotional. And I said, let's talk about that. So that was the genesis of the copy we wrote. Anyway,
this is why I watch Jaws with the sound off.
Yeah, because it's not scary.
It's just a shark is going to eat that person. But
so I launched it and sold $300,000 on the first day on Black Friday of 2014.
Wow.
And
I thought you were going to say on the black market.
No, on Black Friday, yeah. And then went on to sell about $24 million worth of that. So anyway,
that's incredible. Yeah, that's fun to jump into that. Now, is the reason you were hesitant at first because you just thought there's nothing here?
It was too weird for me, too woo-woo. Okay. I didn't understand it.
Okay, gotcha.
But once I saw the testimonials from people who actually had used it and what it was doing for them, I had to go study it, and then I realized it was real. I realized, okay, this isn't woo-woo. It's true. Like there's you can go to YouTube and look up sound wave sand sculpture. So like there's a guy that has these like table, and he'll just put sand on it, and then he'll play certain music under it, and the sand changes shape based on the music, and it's beautiful, like snowflakes. It's gorgeous. Look at that; it's really cool. I'm like, oh well, music does things, sounds do things, and frequencies do things. So I studied it pretty aggressively, and they were using 528 hertz actually to clean oil off of oil spills, and actually playing this sound frequency, and it breaks up and dissolves the oil when the Gulf oil spill happened several years ago, and they were using frequencies to break up the oil. So okay, this is real. So once I understood it was real, then I agreed to market it, and here we go.
Well, it just makes me think of how faith works. Like the wind blows, you don't really believe in the wind until you see the leaves moving, right?
Right.
And the same thing with the sand and the frequency. It's like, and you were skeptical at first, like, but then when you see the results, that's what makes you go, I'm a true believer now. Yeah. So I like that whole demonstration of faith. And that's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing about that. That's cool.
Wasn't planning on it, but there we go.
I know. Well, and I have a couple more fun fact things before we get into sort of like how the possibility mindset has really fueled your career as an entrepreneur and your different ventures. A couple things. We were having breakfast, and he mentioned he had grandkids. Like, this guy's a grandpa? I didn't even know.
I know, this young handsome face.
And so I was like, well, I don't want to ask you more about that right now because I want to save that for when we record. And I said, that's the problem with having breakfast before you record, is that you don't want to like get too deep because you want to save it for the conversation. But then he goes, but then you also discover things that are good for topics. And case in point, I also learned you are a motorcycle guy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either about you. So tell us about your motorcycle and how you became. Do you have the leather?
Oh, yeah.
Do you beat people up? Do you go to the biker bars? What's the motorcycle lifestyle look like? Yes, to beat up people.
No, I don't beat, but I do go to biker bars.
Okay, tell us about that lifestyle.
So, possibilities, right?
Yeah.
I rode a motorcycle as a kid. I actually got a motorcycle as a graduation present when I graduated high school. Wow.
Hear that, Mom and Dad? I don't remember a motorcycle.
Yeah. I've been giving my mom and dad both crap about that recently, though, because my motorcycle was in Phoenix, Arizona, and I lived in Salt Lake City at the time. Mm-hmm. So it was like, I don't know, 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
And my dad literally like goes, congratulations, I'm giving you a motorcycle. And it was one of his that he had before, and I don't know why it was in Arizona. I still don't know why. Okay. He goes, but you got to go get it. So I'm like, okay. So I caught a ride with a friend and rode, and then I rode 1,000 miles. Like, I'm 18 years old. I rode 1,000 miles on the motorcycle, and this is not like a motorcycle you should be doing 1,000 miles on. And I had to go up over Flagstaff, and it was in June, and I got hit with a freak snowstorm. So here I am. I'm 18 years old. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I'm on a 1,000-mile motorcycle ride in the snow. And I'm like, what were my parents thinking? Like, here you go. And then so it was crazy. But I rode a motorcycle for several years, and then kids started happening and things like that. I'm like, well, I probably shouldn't do things that are super dangerous.
Yeah, I don't even get on ladders. Hardly. Yeah. I mean, let alone be riding motorcycles.
Yeah, but my kids are grown now, and so I started riding again a couple years ago, and I'm proud that I actually...
Caution to the wind, baby. Literally. You're like,
who cares? And I ride year round, so I there's not a month of the year that I've missed since I started riding like 3 or 4 years ago.
You would ride it out in this weather?
No.
What is it, like -8 today?
It's -8 today, and no, I would not.
Where do you cut the line? Where's the line? You won't go out.
Well, that depends. So in general, the line
on the temperature
doesn't matter if I haven't ridden that month, I have to ride.
Yeah.
But I just did a New Year's ride I'm a member of the American Legion Riders.
Oh, nice.
And so we did a Legion ride on New Year's Day. They have an annual ride.
Yeah.
I think it was 30, I think it was about 30, well, no, it was just below freezing. I think it was 29 when we left in the morning, and it was like 36 on the way back.
Wow.
But yeah, so I will ride below freezing.
Nice.
I've got chaps and... all the things and chapstick.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
chaps and chapstick. That's all you take with you.
The only thing I won't ride in now, because of my early experiences in the snow, I won't ride in the snow because that's just okay. For it. But no, I ride, and I'll ride cross country. I rode last summer. I rode all through Colorado and over to Utah and back through Wyoming, and really gorgeous ride. And then before that, I rode out to the summer before that. I rode out to Cheyenne, Wyoming for Cheyenne Frontier Days and saw. Garth Brooks and Ned Ledoux, and I'm bringing that up because we may have a story later that involves Ned's dad, Chris Ledoux.
Ooh,
but I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to tell that story or not. So we'll see if it fits.
Well, and I don't know how much you're going to get into this, but you've mentioned Utah a few times this morning. What took you? Where did you start? And or am I jumping the gun on your story?
I don't know.
Yeah. Where'd you? Yeah. How'd you get to Utah?
So I was born in Utah.
Yeah.
And I've moved around several times since then, and lived in California, lived in Washington, other places. But I moved from Utah to Kansas City 17 years ago, almost 18 years ago.
Okay.
Because my son, one of my sons, I've got 5 kids, and one of my sons is deaf, and the Kansas School for the Deaf here in Olathe is one of the best deaf schools in the country.
I've performed there. Did you know that? I performed at that
too.
You weren't there, so
no,
I
wasn't there.
You remember that one. But yeah, during a snowstorm, actually, one time.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I just
your act would be great for that because it's so visual.
Well, I remember. They had an interpreter there for me.
Sure.
So this was my first time performing for a deaf crowd, and so I would say the line and kind of wait for the interpreter, but it was difficult because it wasn't just words coming across. They had to watch her and then come back to me to watch the visual thing I was doing with the trick.
Yeah.
So I was just aware. I was like, I'm going to go real slow so that they have the time to go back and forth. Now, I probably wasn't giving them enough credit. They're probably like, speed it up, fella, because they can probably take in more than I realized. And with the proper training, I probably could have been more effective. But they seem to love it. I mean, this was forever. This was.
Why wouldn't they love you?
You're
Devin Henderson. Why wouldn't they love you? Come on.
Thank you. I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
I'll say it for you.
Okay, so Utah and
so we moved here. We were going to stay until my son graduated, but he's 25 now. So apparently, I like it around here. I got heavily involved in scouting, which is really strong in this part of the world, and made a lot of good friends, and here I am. So,
but it was the Kansas School for the Deaf that's what brought you here.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. I wonder how many schools like that there are around the country, and Anyway, that's.
Yeah,
we have to get into that.
There's a lot of schools around the country, and we looked all over. We went to Oregon, looked at Indiana, Florida, looked at a couple in California, and this was the one, and it was the right move.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. See, I feel like so far this is just fun facts and background, but it's like this so far. That's been a great podcast. We could just quit here, but I feel like we're just getting started. Tell us about your grandkids. You have how many grandkids?
I have 6 grandkids.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
What's it like being a grandpa?
It's the best. It's so much better than being a parent.
That's what I hear.
It's so much better.
What's the other?
You got a long time to go yet. But can you imagine 20 years from now how many grandkids you're going to have?
Dude,
Holy
I know.
cow, dude.
I know.
With 7 daughters, you're going to be it's going to be awesome. No, it's fun. You sugar them up, you get them all hyped up, and then you send them home.
Yeah, man.
And no, it's good. And I've got some here in Kansas City. I got some in Utah. I've got one in California. And visit as frequently as I can. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Let's go back now. Let's actually start the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Marty Fahncke.
Hi.
I just want to. When I know you from Toastmasters and I see you here and there, I don't get the whole story, but I just know that Marty's one of these mysterious people. Because when you would speak at Toastmasters, you would just come up with, here's what Twitter means in my life right now, and here's and you would do all these whatever you were working on at the time, and I'm like, who is this guy? I can't define him. I don't know what to call him. So you're going to help us figure that out and how the possibility mindset has played into your life and advanced you. But you started.
If it makes you feel any better, my mom still doesn't know what I do for a living. She's
well,
like, don't you do an internet thing?
An internet thing. The internet thing guy. 30 years ago, you started as a telemarketer, right? Is that a good place to start?
That's a great place to start at the beginning.
At the beginning, let's do it.
So way back in the olden days, before the internet existed, there used to be lots of TV commercials on the air, and they'd be selling everything from slicers and dicers to Elvis's '68 comeback record to jewelry or whatever else. And back then, it was you'd call a toll-free number. Operators are standing by.
Yeah.
You're probably not old enough to remember that, but
I remember as
a kid, maybe.
Yeah. When I was prank calling people, and I was
there
probably pranking you.
You probably were. So I was one of those operators that was standing by, and it was a huge call center, thousands of employees, hundreds of these cubicles. It was you're just a factory, and minimum wage, which the minimum wage at that time was $3.35 an hour.
Wow.
And I was a young, starving family man. I married very young, and I had my first child very young. And I'm looking around going, I am not going to be able to provide for my family at $3.35 an hour.
Yeah.
But I'm here because this is what I have.
Okay.
So one day I was sitting there and I'm taking calls and I'm taking orders, and at that time there was an exercise machine called SoloFlex that was really popular, and those things sold for like $1,000 or something like that. And
was that sort of like the Bowflex, but the
precursor to Bowflex?
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. And so, there was a stop smoking program that we would sell what I loved. I had an honor selling that because it worked. Like literally, people would call us crying afterwards. I bought it and it worked, and I stopped smoking finally. So some of the stuff we sold was really good stuff, right?
Well, just curious about this no smoking thing. Was it a CD?
It was pills, CDs, and I can't remember. It was 30 years ago.
Okay,
give me a break. I don't even remember hiring you to come talk to my scouts, but anyway, yeah, it was a whole program. It was called Cigarest. I remember the name of it, Cigarest. It doesn't exist anymore.
Cigarest.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I just got off a call and I'd sold something else. I think a piece of fitness something, and I was like, man, and I started adding up, and I realized that in the past hour I had sold $10,000 worth of stuff, and I had made $3.35. So I'm like, there's a big gap here between this and this. How do I get my hands on some of that? And it wasn't because I was greedy. It's because I need to take care of my family, right? Yeah. So I'm like, somewhere between what I'm making and what's over here, is $9,996.35 or 65 cents.
You did that all in your head.
Well, I got it wrong. So I said, okay, who's making all this money? So I started looking and said, okay, the people who manufacture and sell these products and put the ads on TV are making all this money. So I want to be one of those. How do I get there? I don't know. I have no idea how I'm going to get there, but I've got to figure this out. So I started looking around and said, okay, what's a stepping stone to there? And I started looking around, and at my company, thousands of employees, huge building, and I looked around and said, who's making good money here? Who seems to be having a great time and enjoying? Who likes their job, right?
Yeah.
And I looked around, and it was the sales department of the account executives who actually went and sold the services to those end users. Okay. So I'm like, they've got it going on. I want to get there. I need to get where they are, because they drive nice cars and wear nice clothes and seem to have enough money to support their families. I got to get there. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there. So the next thing I know, they opened up a division to service what at that time was the very first home-delivered premium pet food. It was Carnation Company that came. Carnation said, we're going to sell this home-delivered premium pet food, which home-delivered pet food was not existent. That was the very first. Okay. And they said, we need people to help take the calls on that. So I'm in. Whatever, because that's getting closer to the end. The end people who are making the $10,000 an hour.
Yeah.
So I jumped right in and I said, I'm in. And they said, okay, come on over. And so people would call in, they'd get a free sample, and then my job was to call them back and say, hey, did Fifi like the free sample? Can we send you some more? Can we put you on a subscription program? And on all of this was completely new and innovative at the time. And I became very quickly the number one salesman there were probably 80 of us or something. And I was writing like birthday cards to cats and dogs and sweet talking old ladies. But I believed in what I was selling. I knew that the product I was selling was a premium quality product. And I knew that the service I was providing, which was delivering it to their homes, was a huge benefit, because a lot of people can't lift an 80-pound bag of dog food, or if it's dry or wet food, a case of 24. That's heavy, right? They got to drive to the store. And at that time, premium pet food wasn't available at the stores. You could only get it from your vet. So you'd have to go to your vet, get premium food, load it in your car, haul it home, pay a fortune for it. And this was cost effective. So I felt good about myself knowing that I was selling something that helped people. And pets. So I'm just cranking away at it, and I'm just doing the best I can do it probably went 6 months. One day, and they had at the hallway outside our room, they had like salesman of the week and salesman of the month and all this kind of stuff. And my name is like on 80% of those plaques. This lady named Opal Singleton, and I'm going to talk about her later too, but Opal Singleton, who was the number one corporate salesperson there. She was the number one. That was her account, and she had other accounts. She'd told tens of millions of dollars worth of services, of this call center services, And she was walking down the hall thinking, I really need to get some help. Like, I need to get like an assistant or some sort of help. And out of the corner of her eye, she was seeing my name, Marty Fahncke, Marty Fahncke, Marty Fahncke. And she literally stopped and looked at the wall and goes, this guy might know something.
She's like, who is Marty Frankenstein?
Right, and Marty Frankenstein. So I probably did there. So she walks in the room, and the supervisor sitting there says, is Marty Fahncke? She's like, yeah, he's over there. She was, would you be interested in coming upstairs to the corporate offices and doing some work for a day and seeing if you'd be interested in working up there? I'm like, would I? Heck yeah. So I literally put my headset down and followed her upstairs. And she kind of told me what she needed and what kind of things had to do. And I was just an assistant. I was just an administrative assistant. And I worked for her for a half a day. But I was like, this is it. This is my shot, right? I'm the upstairs. Yeah. I'm at the executive level. I'm a nobody, but I've got to figure out how this works. Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the day, 5:30 comes along and she goes, would you be interested in coming back tomorrow? And I'm like, heck yeah. Now keep in mind, at the time I was wearing ripped jeans, a Van Halen t-shirt, and I had a long hair, I had a mullet, okay? It's the 80s.
I want some pictures,
it's the 80s.
That's awesome.
So she says, would you be interested in coming back tomorrow? And I said, yeah, I would. And she kind of looks at me, and she kind of looks me up and down. She doesn't say a word, okay? She just looks me up and down. Well, I'm on the executive floor where everybody's wearing suits.
Yeah.
Okay? So I leave. I get a haircut, and I went to the secondhand store, and I bought a suit. And I showed up the next morning early, and I was standing outside her office door when she got there. And she looked me up and down again. She never said a word. She looked me up and down again and just kind of nodded. And that led to a career. We eventually closed DirecTV. We handled all their customer service. That was a $300 million account as a team, her and me and Brett. But just thinking about possibilities, I knew that was my ticket. That was my shot. I was like, and I had friends, I kind of hung out with a rough crowd. And I'm not cutting my hair for anybody. I was like, no, I'm cutting my hair for my family.
Yeah.
I know that I can't dress like this and look like this and work in this environment. Yeah. And she never said a word, but her eyes told me, okay, you can come back tomorrow, but you probably ought to clean up.
Yeah. And amazing, without saying a word,
right.
What wisdom is there to let you figure it out for yourself?
Right. Yeah.
Just the look.
Yeah.
I mean, already the possibility mindset is written all over this story. Going back to the call center and seeing that discrepancy between you're making minimum wage versus, well, some people are making 10 grand off of what I'm selling. What I think a lot of people may not have the awareness to say, wait, to see that first of all, and then to ask, what else is possible? Which is what you ask when you have a possibility mindset of what else is possible? Can I get more of that? And why? To feed my family, just like to support them better. So I love how you had the good intention behind it. Like you said, it wasn't greed. You just want to provide,
Yeah.
So and then it just kept going to like door after door. What else is possible? What else is possible? She's asked me to come up there. What else is possible? Well, how can I look better? How can I succeed more if I'm to come back for day 2? And you acted on that.
Right.
That's amazing. So then, what from there? Where to go?
So from there, she basically said, you're a kid. You don't know anything, which is true. I really just read constantly, study constantly. Yeah. And so she had a Wall Street Journal subscription, like all these subscriptions, all these newspapers and magazines. One of my jobs was to voraciously read everything. Again, this is pre-internet. Read everything and analyze. And she had a list of target companies that she wanted to go after. And so if I saw anything about any of those companies, I would cut it out and put it on her desk. Well, about 2 weeks after I started working with her, there was a complaint filed against me because all I did was sit at my desk with my feet up reading. And somebody literally, hey, that new guy you hired, he's terrible. Like all he does is sit
there reading.
And she's like, that's literally the job I gave him. And that's what I need him to do because he's critically analyzing media to find me opportunities to go sell our services.
Wow.
And the vice president had called her in like, hey, I'm hearing some stuff. And she told the vice president, just let me do my job. I'm the number one person here. I sell more than any 5 people combined. I know what I'm doing, and I know what he's doing, and he's doing what I told him to do, because you can't be successful without knowledge.
Yeah. And
so he's getting knowledge, so back off.
Yeah. Wow, that's so awesome. She had your back on that, and she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you looking for when you're sourcing? Like you looking for ad spots, or this would be our buyer, like people who read this magazine buy pet food, or
I mean, at that time it was who's launching a new product, or who's got some new initiative, or who's who's having a recall, like potentially a recall, because we would handle recalls, like you got to call in and get your product. So just a clue, you're just looking for clues. Oh, they might need call center services, which is what I was selling at the time. So you're just analyzing any little opportunity, and then we'd go and say, hey, we heard you were doing this or that, or our biggest day ever at that company was the San Francisco earthquake, which was I think in 1989.
During the World Series.
During the World Series, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I was watching that game.
Yeah, and then again, then the Candlestick Park was going like that. Yeah. And right after that, and of course, San Francisco, bridges were collapsed. It was pretty bad. Right after that, the president of the United States got on and said, the thing you can all do to help right now is to call the Red Cross and donate. And then he gave the Red Cross's toll-free phone number. Guess who those calls went to? Us. And we got annihilated. We literally got millions of calls. Yeah, it was crazy. When the president of the United States, and at that time, this was still back when there was only only a few TV channels. Everybody was just watching TV because it was so crazy that earthquake. Right. And so he gets on there and says, "Everybody call right now," and it was like millions of calls. So we got bombed. But
George Bush Senior.
Well, I think it was Senior. Yeah, it was George Bush Senior.
And were they donating? Well, thanks, man. Were they donating blood, money, both?
It was money.
Not blood money, but blood. Money.
Punctuation matters.
It does. That's a problem with listening, right?
It was money at the time because again, there were collapsed bridges, and still at that time there were still people buried under rubble and stuff like that. Yeah. So that was a pretty intense time.
Now, was Opal coaching you on how to find these opportunities, or was she like, "Hey, figure this out"?
No.
Okay,
she was
you
telling
what you
me
were looking for.
Yeah, she was telling me what to do and what to look for. But that was the start. So from there, then I looked at. I was still had that goal. I was like, it's the people who come up with these great ideas, these great inventions or whatever, and then sell them on TV. Those are the ones really making the big bucks. And so, and I still had that goal. And so I was working with them now, and we were selling them our services. They were our clients, but I still wanted to be them. And so I worked through a long thing, again, that possibility mindset, I want to be over there, to where eventually I was on that side of things, and I was working with the inventors and working with the creators and helping them bring their products to market and putting them on TV and QVC. And then the internet came around, and I was the very first person to ever put a URL on an infomercial.
Really?
Which at the time,
right here,
Marty Fahncke, it's crazy. People. Yes, dating himself yet again. Wow. It's just how old he is.
A URL on an infomercial.
So at the time, the infomercial space, they were all like, "No way." People call, they order. We have this, we have scripts to upsell them. Like it's a controlled environment. There's no way we're going to put a website address, a www address, on there and let them go off into the wild. And we can't control. It was so interesting, the fear that people had about, no, I'm not going to do that.
It's probably like the way people feel about AI today, right?
AI, everybody, AI, And this was when the internet was still maybe a fad. So I was like, no, dude. I'm like, no, seriously, people.
Maybe it still is a fad.
Maybe it's just a really long fad. So people. I was hired by a very visionary CEO who did a couple of different things. Taught me a lot, but one of the things was like, well, we don't know until we try. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
So we consolidated with a couple of people, and we put it out there, and it worked. And it worked great because, of course it worked. But it's weird to think that back then people were afraid of it. Right. They were literally afraid of it. So.
Where does risk play into this? That when is it too big of a risk, right? Because so many organizations today are risk averse for good reasons a lot of times. But when is it okay to, when does a calculated risk become too much of a risk? In that case,
we put it on an infomercial that was probably doing $1 million a month, let's say, and we probably bought, and we were buying, let's say, let's say we were buying $100,000 a month in media time. I think we put $10,000 of that into spots with the URL, and let's put it out there and see what happens. And what do we think happened? People went to it, and they bought, and so we're like, oh, well, that was a good risk. And then we and it was crazy because at that time most infomercials ran on the weekends really aggressively, overnights, and then Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings was key time for infomercials. And so our call centers, were super staffed up. We had tons of calls on Saturdays and Sundays. When I put the URL out there, we got most of our orders on Mondays. I was like, well, wait a minute, why is that? Well, I went back. Not only did I put a URL on there, I would put video snippets of the infomercial itself to download. There wasn't streaming then. This was this was 4 years before YouTube existed. So you could go to the website and you could download bits of the infomercial.
I see.
So I'd put like the kind of the main pod of it, and then the call to action and the testimonials, and you could download them. And what I found out was at that time only about 30% of the United States had broadband. So 70% were on dial-up.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
So it wasn't until they got to work.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, that they were
exactly.
Looking it up.
So they literally were
Monday
writing
morning.
down the URL, and they'd go to work and they'd watch the videos. Wow. And then they'd order. We're like, why is all of a sudden all these orders on Monday? We don't even have an airing on Monday. Well, it's because it was so unique.
Dark ages,
man. It was so dark
This
ages,
is
but
crazy.
it was so that curiosity factor. People were like, well, I can watch a video. And this was new. This was people weren't watching it, and so they didn't have broadband, and so.
And they probably watched the whole video,
as
opposed to now, right? I'm just thinking.
We couldn't do the whole video because the file size was too big.
But what I mean is the whole, at least what you posted, the whole thing. Whereas today you watch a minute of a YouTube video and you're like on to the next one, right? Because everything's too available. But back then it was like this golden thing. I can't wait till Monday morning to come watch this clip, and you're gonna.
And it was some exercise machine, right? And they're just watching.
Yeah.
What I learned though, because I did have enough presence of mind to put analytics on all of this, was that I could tell what they watched before they actually ordered, and overwhelmingly it was the testimonials.
Okay.
And that's when I learned how powerful testimonials are in marketing. I already kind of knew that, but like it really drove it home. I was like, wow, okay, they watch this, and then they watch that, and then they watch the testimonials, and then they click the buy now button.
Okay.
I was like, oh, testimonials are important. So I use testimonials for all of our marketing, for all of our
Which
businesses.
I'd love to pause your journey right there on testimonials, because people have mixed feelings about testimonials. From what I've heard, I use them on my website. Everyone uses testimonials. I use a lot of video testimonials as well, which I kind of feel like is a notch up, because you're getting the emotion,
the real thing.
You're getting like in the. I like to take testimonials on my my phone right after the keynote when the energy's still high. And like, oh my gosh, we just had Devin. This was so fun. Rather than in their office later, some people say, I'll send you one later because I like to think about what I'm going to say. And it's like, we had Devin Henderson. He was a blast. And it's like, that's not really going to sell.
You're right.
But I think a lot of people see testimonials as contrived, and that people wrote the testimonial because they felt obligated. So do you have anything to say about the power of it, or the lack of the power? Okay, you just say you're just 100% testimonials all the way.
Yeah,
it's the way to go.
It's like when people do market research and they're like, well, how much would you pay for this item? And people, well, I'd pay that much. And then you put it to market, and that's like, oh, that's not really what they'll pay.
Yeah.
People think they know something, but they don't really, right? They think that testimonials are contrived, but they aren't realizing how much of their decision-making process of anything has to do with reviews and testimonials.
Yeah.
Even though they think they're contrived, they're still believing them. Cialdini's Principles of Influence. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but everybody should read that book, by the way, Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini. And
the Influence?
Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini.
Okay, all right.
Highly recommend. Anybody should read that book.
Okay.
And it talks about the principles of influence, and there's sort of but one of those is called social proof, and you really lack the ability to communicate a message effectively without that piece in there, the social proof piece.
Well, and I think I'm more likely to trust a testimonial if there's bad ones and good ones mixed in, rather than just going to like a speaker website. What are we going to do? We're going to put our best on there. Now, sometimes on the podcast, I like to share some like helpful criticism that I get, because I do a survey at the end of my keynote. So I like to be honest about, this is what someone said. I missed the mark a little bit with this person, but that's good for me because I'm going to correct that, so I don't want to hide that. But, we're going to put our best stuff out there, but more of like, when you go to Google reviews or Reddit or whatever, you can trust the good when you see the bad, but the good people will be like, no, dude, this was amazing. Because it's not going to land well with anybody anyway. And I think it just, there's more of a trust level there when you see both sides.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, okay. So anyway, the testimonials, that was rocking for you. You put the URL on the infomercial for the first time. Which, by the way, who's the OxyClean guy? That Billy
Mays.
You have the Billy Mays look and feel. You could have been the one giving the infomercial.
The picture has been lost. I've been looking for it for several years. I don't know where it went. I have a picture of me with Billy.
Nice.
With our arms around each other, and we look like pretty similar. We got the same beard and everything.
I mean, conspiracy theorists would say he's sitting right.
I had on a blue shirt that matched his, and so OxyClean was actually one of my clients. That's the product name. But Orange Glow International was the name of the company that created OxyClean. That OxyClean, Orange Glow, and Kaboom were their three big brands, and they were one of my clients for several years until they got bought by Church and Dwight. But I knew Billy pretty well before he passed away. Great guy.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, so then what? Where's it go from there? Possibility.
I don't know. I jumped ahead several decades.
Well, we're talking about the.
Oh, I know. It's a visionary CEO. So I'm working for this visionary CEO, and he's like, "Go put a URL on an infomercial. Let's see what happens." And we did, and it worked well. And so I'm running an internet business, one of the very first successful internet e-commerce businesses. Again, I'm going way back, 20-something years. And we were also wholesaling our products out to Target and Walmart and Kmart at the time and Sears and whatnot. I did a lot of fitness and home exercise equipment. And so, but we also wholesale our products to some online retailers. And there was one online retailer in particular who sold our products, and they were out marketing me. They would get to the search engines more aggressively than I would. They had and so I'm like, they're selling the same thing I'm selling because we wholesaled it to them. Mm-hmm. I've got more margin because I'm the manufacturer, and yet they're somehow able to acquire customers like better than we are. And so it was really frustrating me. And I had a good team, and I'm a good marketer. My team's good marketers, and we're doing well. But I can tell these guys keep bumping into where we are, and I'm like, man, they're really frustrating me. And so I went to the CEO and I told him, man, this is what's happening. I said, we need to stop selling our product to these guys. And he's like, well, they're selling a lot. Like, but they're selling out from underneath us, right?
Right.
Well, that's a good point, because then we're not building the customer database, and we're not, so. And he's like, well, why don't you go out and buy them? I hadn't thought of that. Now, I had already had some experience in mergers and acquisitions before that, because before that time I had built a company and sold it for $1.5 million. So I knew that this buying and selling of businesses existed, but I hadn't yet put the possibilities mindset on it, right?
Right.
So I just kind of like, well, what do you mean? He goes, go call them up, see if they want to be acquired. Okay. So I call him up and say, hey, this is your main competitor online, and
how you doing?
How you doing? You know? And he's like, oh, hey, I'm kicking your butt, aren't I? I'm like, yeah, I am. How would you like me to buy you? And he goes, wow. Oh yeah, I'm open to that. So
really?
Yeah.
That
so I'm like,
easy?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so let's talk. And so couple meetings, couple talks, and we acquired their company. Wow. And he was doing $2 million a year in sales, and I was doing $1.5 million a year in sales. Yeah, this is very early on, so that was pretty good money online back then.
Yeah.
And okay, now I have a math riddle for you.
I have so many questions about this story. This is great. Okay. I love this, but I'm just going to follow you.
So my company's doing $1.5 million a year in sales online.
Is that where you're going?
Well, let's make sure the audience.
I try to get prideful and jump ahead.
And they're $2 million in sales, and we put the two together. What do you think our annual revenue was in the second year?
Oh, okay. I'm just
after the acquisition,
because the math says 3.5, but it's got to be more than that, because when you're combining forces, I'm going to say 5.5.
That's a great guess.
Was it less?
Completely wrong.
No.
$30 million.
What?
$30 million we did in the second year. Because
how?
Because
how did this
1 and 1 doesn't always make 2.
Yeah.
Okay? 1 and 1 can often make 11.
Totally.
And that's what happened here.
Wow.
Brett and his team were phenomenal. My team was phenomenal. He was missing some stuff. I was missing some stuff. When we put the two together, all cylinders were firing, and we just crushed it.
Dude, how inspiring is that?
Yeah.
Seriously, because I talk about this I think about it, talk about it all the time, when just even whoever you can collaborate with, even if it's a competitor, even if you're not going to merge, it's like me and another speaker getting together, having a mastermind. I'm missing things, he's missing things. Sometimes I think as entrepreneurs, we want to hide from our competition. We want to hide what we're doing and put a hedge around it so they can't steal our stuff. But if you can tap into each other's brilliance and resources, I mean, look what happened. That's insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's
awesome.
Insane.
Here's the cool thing, and what I'm going to ask you another math question.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
We bought his company. Okay.
I got my mud water, and I am ready for this next question.
So we bought his company.
Okay. Yes.
We paid $3.5 million for his company. How much do you think that cost us?
Well, out of that $30 million, not very much. I mean, a fraction of what you made. But how much did that cost you? Okay.
So when we said we're going to give you $3.5 million for your business. How much do you think we took out of our bank account and gave him at that?
Oh. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at math. I was going to say $3.5 million, but I know that can't be.
That's
the answer.
The logical answer.
Right.
Like, you're so smart, Devin. You're doing exactly what everybody else does.
I'm trying to be smarter than I am. And I just can't see.
So most people would think, oh, you bought a business for $3.5 million.
Right.
You must have given them $3 million out of your pocket to do that. Nobody does that.
Okay.
That is not how effective mergers and acquisitions works.
Okay. All right.
We paid about $250,000, about $250,000 in cash.
Okay.
And the rest was in what was called earnouts. They got stock.
Okay.
And they took a piece of that future earnings.
Okay.
And so they wound up making more than $3.5 million in the long run.
Okay.
But the company only paid $250,000 to acquire that. And that's actually how most people. So when I talk to business owners and I'm like, hey, whether it's a plumber or a restaurant, I don't know a lot of restaurants, but I say, look, you're doing $1 million a year, and you want to do $2 million a year next year. Mm-hmm. Okay, what's the easiest way to do that? And what does everybody think? Well, I'm going to have to double how much I sell, right? Sell twice as much products and services. Right. That's hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard to just sell more.
Sure.
If I could sell more, I would have done it by now.
Yeah.
What if you go out and acquire $1 million business, and then overnight, you're a $2 million business? And they go, okay, that's logical, but I don't have $1 million to go acquire $1 million business.
Right.
You don't need that.
Yeah.
You could do it. There's ways to do it for literally not one penny out of your pocket, or at most maybe 10% out of your pocket. So you can take $100,000 and buy $1 million business, put the two together, and now you have a $2 million business that maybe is a $10 million business because if you get those synergies, right? And so business owners a lot of times don't understand. That's part of my mission to educate people about that, because you just think, well, they bought a $3.5 million business, they must have had $3.5 million laying around. No, nobody does that.
So here's my big that is so interesting. I don't know much about. I've seen a lot of acquisition and mergers, because a lot of times when people have me come speak is after an acquisition or a merger, and
you're trying to get the team building.
Yeah, and hey, we got these two groups, or like people. Sometimes it's when, and this was where my question is leading, where a company's being acquired, but a lot of people are losing their jobs, and it's their last big company party, and people are depressed about it. So
it's a tough audience.
It's a tough audience.
Wow.
It happened. Yeah, and what are the ramifications of the people, the families who don't benefit from this acquisition or merger? I mean, what are your thoughts, feelings around that?
And that's tough. And honestly, for the most part, that's in a space I don't play in.
Okay.
So I don't do great big companies that are going to merge and then lay a whole bunch of people off.
I see. Okay.
I focus on entrepreneurial business. I'm an entrepreneur. I work with entrepreneurs. So I focus mostly on businesses that are between $1 and $15 or $20 million is my kind of sweet spot. And for the most part, those type of businesses that do mergers and acquisitions, you're needing those people. I'm almost never involved in a transaction where you're merging something and laying a bunch of people off. So I for those people who are affected by those big corporate mergers where there's huge layoffs, I feel bad. It's terrible, and I don't play in that space, and that's part of why I don't play in that space too, because there are those incidents where they're going to merge the thing, and then you got two accounting departments or two this, and they got to lay a bunch of people out, and that's I don't know, I just don't play in that space, and there's a ton of money in that space,
right?
But I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to do.
Yeah. So with the entrepreneur thing, I'm curious, where from that, like, what else do you do now? Because you obviously help with these merger type things for entrepreneurs. Is that the pinnacle of what your business is? Is that mainly what you do?
Well, it is. I've also, in this field, so I now have taken equity positions in lots of businesses. So I own lots of businesses in lots of different spaces. And, something else that I try and teach entrepreneurs is owning your supply chain. So, for example, we were working with a brewery that we had invested in. We took a piece of equity in that brewery, and they wanted to do a huge campaign with a whole bunch of swag, right? Hats and koozies and sweatshirts and blah blah blah. So we actually took an ownership stake in the company that does all of the printing and all of that custom work. So now we're buying from ourselves, right? Yep. So as a business owner, I would say, look up and down your supply chain. Who are you paying money to, and who's paying money to you? And should you own a piece of that? Mm-hmm. Should you have a stake in either all or part of the businesses that surround your business as a satellite?
Yeah.
Because you can get better quality, you get preferential treatment, and you're making money on yourself. Right. So I always encourage that as well when I'm talking to entrepreneurs.
The whole supply chain thing. Yeah, that's crazy.
And again, all this is stuff that you read about in the in the Bloomberg blogs and whatever else, and you think about, this is Wall Street stuff, this is big business stuff, this is so and so merged with so and so, or airlines or whatever. It's applicable at the small business level too, and the entrepreneurial level, because those synergies and that working together and that team, like all of this can be done at a smaller scale and help grow your any kind of entrepreneurial business. So, but people don't think about it.
Well, I love how people don't think about it. I love how that visionary CEO is like, go see if they want to be bought, and you're like, what? We can do that, And so sometimes it's just about having someone instill that possibility mindset in you. Marty, just remember to keep asking what else is possible, and that, to me, I feel like opened up for you, like, oh man, anything's possible now. Anything. Like I can, always seek out people to acquire, to work for win-wins, buying your supply chain. That's amazing. So what things can you tell, the audience? I don't want to miss any big gaps in your story. Are there any other significant moments that have brought you where you are today?
All right, I'll tell my Chris Ledoux story.
Okay, all right, let's
sometimes possibility, and it's I gotta let me back up to the very beginning of what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that thank you for having me on the podcast, Devin. I'm honored to be here.
Yes.
I'm also very intimidated to be here because whenever I'm on a podcast, I listen to several episodes of the podcast before I'm on. I want to get to know the host. Now I know you, but I want to get to know the host and the style of the podcast and the messaging. Yeah. And the messaging of your podcast so intrigued me because it's very different than most anything I've done. Most stuff I've done is very hardcore business oriented or marketing or mergers and acquisitions, and yours is possibilities mindset. And I seriously was listening to episodes, and you've got Top Gun pilot and a professional boxer and a Chiefs cheerleader and all these really successful people with like this anchor, like I'm the pinnacle of whatever I am. And I was listening to the episodes, I started to get some really serious imposter syndrome because I'm like, I'm just a regular guy. I'm not famous. I don't have a book. I'm not a keynote speaker. I do speaking here and there, but I'm not a keynoter. And I started really. I almost canceled on you.
Really?
I almost went like.
Like when? I'm not was qualified. It like last night or?
No. A couple weeks ago. I don't know. Okay. I'd listened to a couple. I was like, I don't think I'm qualified to be here. Well, but then I got to think. I said, okay, get out of your purely business entrepreneurial head and think about and I realized that I've never noticed before. I've always considered myself sort of a pessimist, but I've never noticed before listening to your podcast that actually I've had a possibilities mindset for most of my life. Going back to the call center story, because that's what popped in my head. I'm like, that's probably. I was thinking about the people I worked with at that time, and they were not sitting there calculating, going, how do I go to the next step? They were just like, I hate my job, but I'm going to come and do my job, and then I'm going to go and home. And so just listening to your podcast without even being here has helped me identify that. And I want to thank you for that.
That's great, man. How cool is that?
And so as I was thinking about, well, what can I talk about as possibilities with you? Another story popped in. I wasn't sure if I want to share it because it's kind of the opposite of possibilities, but it's being open to the clues that life gives you. Okay, and so I'm gonna tell this story. So, I was a consultant working with several different companies, and there was a big right there with a big product company who had a hugely successful product. They were probably doing $100 million a year. I was consulting with them, and they kept saying, hey, "We want you full time. We want you full time." I'm like, "No, I got other clients. I got this gig. I love what I'm doing. I love being a consultant. I don't want to work with you full time. I'm entrepreneurial." And they kept hammering. And finally, said, "Look, they were in Washington D.C. area, Falls Church, Virginia, beautiful town." And they said, "Look, why don't you do this? Bring your wife. We're going to send you a couple first class tickets. Bring your wife. Come out. Stay a week." And we'll set you up with a real estate agent, go look at some houses, and we'll take you out to dinner, and let's just see what the possibilities are. And I'm like, okay, like, not going to turn that down. So we fly out there first class. They rented us a nice car, and we check out the area, and it's in a beautiful area like Fairfax, Virginia, Falls. I don't know if you've been there. Really gorgeous, Tyson's Corner. We went with the real estate agent and looked at houses. We found a house. Like, oh my gosh, there's a beautiful house. We found we kind of started mentally moving in. Like we went to we were like, where's the movie theater that we'd go to? Okay, we went to the movies one night. Okay, this is where we'd go. Or here's the mall. And we're like mentally, we're okay. We're gonna. And so I go back and I'm like, yeah, you guys did your job. Like you reeled us in. We get on the plane to go home, and we spend the entire flight talking about the future and what that looks like and how excited we are and everything else. And I know this story is going to sound crazy, but this is a 100% true story. We land in Salt Lake City. It was a time of year that Salt Lake wasn't pretty. Like Salt Lake's really pretty in the wintertime when it's snowing, and in the summertime or early summer, spring when it's green. But it is a desert, so there's times when it's really brown. And we landed, and it was really brown. We're like, oh man, it was so green in Virginia, and it was so brown here. We're like, oh, we're so glad to get out of here, right? We get in our car, we start driving, and a song comes on the radio from who at that time it was an artist I knew, but I didn't love. I just he was around, and he was pretty popular locally. His name's Chris Ledoux. He's a country artist, and actually Garth Brooks mentions Chris Ledoux as his inspiration.
Really?
Garth, and they did a song called "What You Gonna Do with a Cowboy," and then there's another song where he says worn out tape of Chris Ledoux, lonely women and bad booze. Anyway, so Chris Ledoux is like a guy who never was a superstar. He was always kind of but on purpose. Like he's like, I'd rather keep my integrity and only be down here than sell out and become a superstar. Okay. So he's a great artist, and he had a song out that I had never before or since heard on the radio. But we're driving.
You're good. Come on. Yeah. Sonia, everybody.
Hey,
our
Sonia.
Wonderful waitress.
Oh,
hello.
Yes. Brought us those amazing omelets.
Cool. We're way lax here. We're just
Sonia's
talking about
cool.
Chris Ledoux.
I'm checking the plumbing stuff in the front, so I can't use the bathroom when I'm.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're about to. You just told that story to thousands of people.
Sonia,
so welcome.
Yeah, you're.
They don't know that's real life.
And you're VIP anyway. So.
Yeah, so are you though. So you're privacy.
Funny.
All right. So Chris Ledoux is kind of flying under the radar, right?
So we get in the car. We just landed. We're so excited for the future. We're going to pack up our kids. We're going to move cross country. I'm taking this high-paying job where we found a house. We didn't put an offer in, but we're going to put an offer in. A beautiful house, and everything's like. And we're driving along, and this song comes on, and it's called "Beneath These Western Skies." Now this is in Utah, right?
Okay.
And it talks about raising my kids in the Western summertime, and we both go quiet, and she looks at me and I look at her, and I don't remember who said it first, but one of us said, "We're not moving to Virginia, are we?" And the other one was like, "No, we're not." Now call it Chris Ledoux's not God, but I believe crazy enough, I believe God was talking to us through that. He said, "Nope, you're supposed to stay here for now." And so I called the company. I was like, "Hey, I'm not accepting the job. It's a vice president position, a lot of money." And I said, "Hey, I'm not." And they were very unhappy. They fired me as a consultant. They were ticked because I told them yes on the last day out. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm coming." And then I called them like the next day. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not coming." And they were livid. 60 days later, they went bankrupt. locked the door. The employees showed up, and the doors were locked and never opened again.
I just got chills, literally. That's insane.
So, Possibilities mindset was, hey, somebody's offering you a big, high-paying job, and they're whining and dining you and pressuring you to take it, and like, of course, it's great money, and it's this great position, and it's opportunity, and there was all blah, blah, blah. Yes, we're going to do it, right? Possibilities mindset. And then we get home, and then a message comes that says, no, that's not the possibility that's for you. And so I didn't take that, and it was the best move ever. I would have been just closed on a house in a brand new area that I couldn't possibly afford, and I will have just lost my job with no family, no support, no anything, if I would have gone forward with that. So I don't know how that fits into the possibilities mindset, other than possibilities aren't always positive moving forward. Sometimes it's that being open to the possibility that you are where you're supposed to be for now.
Well, I see perfectly how it fits, and only because I'm always thinking about
right. And you're the expert, so tell me. Interpret the situation.
The possibilities were in Utah, not in Virginia. So it's like, what else is possible here in Utah? A place where we want to be, where we want to raise our children, where we feel God is calling us to right now, and He revealed it in a Chris Ledoux song. And then we don't always get to see like why things work, like why God's plan was the way it was. But when you do get to see how awesome is that, I think that just reinforces your faith.
Yeah.
And to follow your true calling, to follow the Lord's leading in your life. And that's what I get from it, is that the possibility mindset, if you wouldn't have been asking what else is possible, you would have been zoned in on this new opportunity, blinded to the blessing that you already have. And that's one thing I always talk about. Always give thanks, AGT. You know, be thankful for what you have right now, because things can look so good. The grass is always greener in Virginia, right?
Oh, it was way greener.
I mean, literally that day it was. And for you realize we already have what we want. And how did it feel? I mean, what was the feeling when you found out they went bankrupt? Not that you were happy that they went bankrupt, but for you, what kind of peace came over you? How'd that feel in that moment?
I was so grateful. I was like, if we'd have gone, like, what? Oh my gosh! Like that would have been an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
Just an absolute disaster.
Wow.
And so, it's made me. Ever since then, it's made me more aware of. Well, I never thought of this until just now, but you talked to me, you do these mergers and acquisitions, and then all these people lose their jobs. I could go do that. I could be involved in multi-hundreds of millions of dollar deals. I choose not to, because I don't like the way a lot of those turn out. I don't want to be responsible for people getting laid off and losing their jobs. So could I be much more successful in my field and make a lot more money? Yeah, I could. I don't want to, because what would the outcome of that would be something I'm not going to live with.
Yeah.
And so I think when I think about the possibility, you have to know what the possibilities are within your own set of values, because it's not always just about the money. It's not always just about the success or whatever else. It has to align. Those possibilities have to align with your values.
Yeah.
Or you're making a mistake chasing them.
One of my life's mantras, and the title of my keynote is "Something Greater is Always Possible." And I always make it clear to people that doesn't mean more success, more money. Sometimes something greater is always possible in what you already have, just realizing the blessing in it, being thankful for it. And that's when you see fruit from your life grow. That you're like, I want what I already have, and I was missing the blessing, and now I appreciate it more. And that's when greater things come your way. More peace, more joy, more fulfillment.
So, ironically, it wasn't maybe 3 months later that this CEO that was like go put a URL on an infomercial and let's go buy.
Oh, is that
he
right?
called and said the same thing. He says, I want to hire you. He was one of my clients at the time too.
Oh, wow.
And he said, and I did the same thing. No, I don't want to, and he succeeded in dragging me to California, and I worked in California for a number of years and had an absolute ball. I mean, it was super. I mean, that's where we built that e-commerce business and everything.
So you would have missed out on that.
I would have been working full time in Virginia and missed out on what's turned out to be where I am today,
Or you would have gotten laid off, and then a month later, maybe not been in the right space for him, right? Because isn't that how it worked out?
Yeah, because I would have had to resign as their consultant to go take that full. So I would have ticked him off.
Oh, I see.
I would have been like,
you would have burned
hey,
that bridge.
I would have burned that bridge. I would have been
gotcha.
like, hey, I'm taking this full-time gig, so I can't consult with you anymore. But instead, I was continuing, and he was like, I really like what you do. I really like what you're doing for our company. I really want you full-time. Like, no. But he talked me into it, and it was great. I did great with her. So
I'm glad
I would have burned that bridge completely.
I'm glad you chose that story. That's a great one to end on.
I never thought about the correlation of those two things until just now. By
right,
the way,
about that you wouldn't have had that opportunity in California.
I've always thought about I would have been lost my job and been stuck in Virginia, but it never occurred to me until just now that would have precluded me from what truly has led me to the path I'm in today.
Wow, that's the beautiful thing about just sharing and talking and verbalizing. You start to realize things, right? That's why this is a side note. My wife and I were just talking about this early in bed this morning, how she heard a quote that your sorrow gets cut in half when you share it with people, but your joy multiplies when you share it with people. And so by sharing this story, you had that realization of, the blessing that you didn't see before of how you didn't burn that bridge and you kept going on in that venture that you had. So that's possibility mindset written all over this. This is so great. Thanks for coming today.
You're a great host.
Oh, thank you.
You pulled these stories out of me. Wasn't going to share.
Well, you're a great guest, man. I appreciate it. I do have a couple final questions for you in a second. And but first, is this a thing where, I know you didn't really come on here to promote products or anything, but is it a thing where if there's an entrepreneur looking at new possibilities to maybe partner with / acquire another, are you for hire? Is this something where they should connect with you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so let me tell you who should reach out to me and why, and then how. So the who would be any business owner who's thinking about selling their business should call me first. Mm-hmm. Any business owner who's thinking, hey, I'd like to grow my business through acquisition. I wonder if it would work for me. They should call me. Okay. The third category is if you know anybody who is in that. If you know of a business that, hey, we're thinking about selling or we're interested, refer them to me. I pay really generous referrals. So a referral from me can be $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to you who refers to me. So
I think I'm ready to sell.
If you know
I know a guy.
If you know a guy who's thinking about buying or selling a business, send them my way. And it'll both. So to your listeners, like if you know of anybody, say, hey, well, I know Joe's thinking about selling his business. Connect me up because it'll benefit all of us.
And what a great model for marketing. I mean, that you're making sure you're clear on who your audience is and telling them who. I love that. So all right.
And then how to reach me? Yeah. Well, first of all, my very unique last name, Marty Fahncke.
Yes.
You can just Google me if you can see how it's spelled here on the YouTube video or whatever. LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so connect me there. Or my website is westboundroad.com.
Okay.
And even
we'll
the name
link on that in the show notes.
Westboundroad.com. And even the name of my main company is Possibilities Mindset. The Westbound Road is really that going west and that what's next and what's the adventure and freedom and like my ties to my motorcycle rides.
Yeah.
But it's all tied
and the
together.
Story you
to
just
that.
Shared the Chris Ledoux story. That
I mean, well, and I've gone and ridden my motorcycle to where his memorial. He's passed away now, but he's got a really great memorial in Casey, Wyoming, and I've ridden my motorcycle there and whatnot. Like I said, it's a whole lot about Chris Ledoux. It wasn't supposed to be, but anyway. But Westbound Road, my company, is named that just because of that possibility, that what's next down the road in the future. And so it's so interesting to me, your podcast, when you invited me here, and I was just like, I don't know, and then I went, no, we actually are pretty aligned, and I didn't realize it. And I'm the only Marty Fahncke in the entire world. So if you, which is good and bad. Because it's good because I'm easy to find, but it's bad because I'm easy to find. So I am very proud of the fact that when people Google my name, I'm the only one that comes up. I'm the only one in the world, and you only find good stuff. Mm-hmm. Thousands of things will pop up on Google. My kids like to play that game with their friends. Yeah. Or when they were little, they would like, hey, let's Google your mom and dad. There's basically yellow pages. I wonder if my dad has anything, and they Google me, like 10,000 results come out. Nice. They play that game. But anyway, but everything is good. You talk about testimonials. You talk about I am acutely aware that with being the only person with my name in the world, that if I screw up or tick somebody off or rip them off or mess up, like it's gonna show up.
Yeah.
And I've worked really hard to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm proud of that.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Westbound Road.
Westboundroad.com.
You're like true modern cowboy, aren't you? I just imagine you just riding off into the sunset, man.
I do ride off into a lot of stuff. Matter of fact, I think my personal Facebook profile has a picture of a sunset through my handlebars.
Oh yeah.
And I don't use that professionally, but my personal and don't friend me on Facebook. I don't use Facebook. I have like hundreds of unresponded to requests there because I don't do it on Facebook.
All right.
But yeah, my ultimate goal when I was younger, before I knew anything about mergers and acquisitions, was I wanted to own 10% of 10 companies and spend my time driving around, visiting each of those companies, helping them and advising them, but then just wandering around the country and somehow through some weird chain of events, it's actually coming true.
Wow.
So
that's so cool.
Yeah. Except I'm on my motorcycle. I didn't know I was going to be on my motorcycle.
Yeah. And it all started with telemarketing.
Wow,
man. Well, hey, before I ask you the last two questions, just want to say once again, thanks again to Etc. Shiny for providing breakfast in this space, or ecstasy, whichever you want to call it. And also remember to go to zeroshoes.com. Get yourself some of these barefoot style shoes. It just might change your life. It might be the solution you're looking to for healthier ankles, knees, all that. So that Zero Shoes with an X, zeroshoes.com/go/Devin. Also, by the way, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, for the full experience, to see my handsome friend Marty, go to YouTube for that full experience and share that. Subscribe, comment, let us know if you got something out of it. Also, if you're listening, one of the best ways you can help us extend our reach and impact more people is to give us a 5-star review. If it's a genuine, 5-star review, we appreciate that. And then comment, how did today inspire you? What did Marty say that made you grasp and embrace the possibility mindset? So, okay, with that, one last question, and then we'll
said two last questions.
I did. The one question was, how can people connect with you? That was number one.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Number two is just briefly one piece of advice for my daughters.
So I've been watching your
episodes.
You
were ready for this.
And I knew you were going to, and I've been racking my brains.
Oh, no.
All right, Devin's daughters, listen to your dad. He's smarter than you think. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
Thanks, Marty. Appreciate that. That's awesome. Marty Fahncke, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks. Okay, awesome. We're going to sign off with the phrase, what else is possible? I'll say what else you say is possible. You ready? Okay, never stop asking the question, what else
is possible?
See you next time.